So we're making the back pocket, and I'm going to stitch a little bit of yellow X-Pack from the last backpack leftovers onto the apex to make it nice and strong. Can you see I'm covered in sweat? We spent an hour, more than an hour?
More than an
solid hour taking apart the whole machine because it wasn't working. Only to then realise that I put the needle in back to front. And literally it was just like, every time I'd try and sew, it would just go... That's pretty relieving that it was just me putting the needle in the wrong way around. Got the reinforcement scrap sewn in place on the top here. The next job is to sew a small hem inwards along the whole of this pocket, and it wants to be quite, it's going to be pretty small, as small as I can make it basically, because then the next fold will come to the line, and that fold will be the one that makes our draw cord channel along the top. Stitch the hem around the top of the pocket. Use a zigzag just because I wanted to try and make this hem as small as possible because I hadn't really left enough space. I'd recommend leaving like 4mm for this maybe. The next job is to place these hole punches into this section of the thing, so you'll see us doing that next. These are brass buckles, you can buy them in packs. Put the bit there, that goes on it. Put it through your nicely melted hole. This bit goes on the top. Hold this in place. Might need to back up a bit here, Finn. And then beat the devil out of it. I don't think you can underdo these. Overdo them. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'll go do the other three. All of the nice buckles are in place. Now I'm going to fold and make the draw cord. The top reinforcement patch is on. Fairly happy with it. I sort of botched it. It wasn't quite long enough there because this piece of fabric was an offcut, which is a bit unfortunate, but I'm sure it'll look better when it's all together, but I'm actually fairly happy with it so far. All the metal bits are on here. Got some nice zigzag going on. Next up is to put the loop in that'll hold the over the top strap, so I will sew that in now. All stitched in. Got a loop on the top, a loop on the bottom, and some nice big bar tack stitching here that goes through 2 layers of X-Pack onto the other side. Hopefully that's going to be super, super strong and capable of lifting the whole bag. We've got the pockets laid out on the shoulder straps. The first step is going to be to hem all of these pockets, so they're going to have 1, 2 folds in them. Zigzag stitch. Let's do that. What I'm going to do before doing this hem is tag on a little piece here that will roll into the hem, and that's going to act as a little, it's a piece of cross grain, it's going to act as a little pull cord, so you'll be able to pull the pocket open a bit easier. Bit difficult. I'm really not a fan of this elastic stuff to work with, but once it's all comes together, it looks really good. I'm actually kind of happy with how these finished, but we'll know when it all comes together. But so the next step, once you cut your pieces, hemmed the tops, and added these little pull tabs, it's going to be the assembly of the shoulder straps. So the plan here is you take your shoulder strap, you lay it out properly, then you want it laying with the good side facing up, because this is going to eventually be the outside. Then you lay the corresponding piece on top of everything like this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to pin all 4 layers of this together with these edges together, so it'll be a bit bunched up on the inside, and then we'll zammy the sewing machine around the whole thing, leaving this bit open. So I think I'm going to do that tomorrow, but you'll see it just soon. It's time to pin these together like I think I said last night. The pockets are pinned in, and we've used some paper clips to secure these so they're not all going to bunch up. Now we pin the top fabric on. Okay, it's time to stitch the bit together. Nervous moment. We just sewed it together, flipped it, and it all looks good. Now I'm going to double stitch, so put a second layer of stitching around the whole thing, and that will make it stronger. Also, I forgot to mention it's important to leave the end open, like this, so that we can flip it and shove foam into it. So I'm going to double stitch it. Finn's going to get the video off the phone because we're running out of storage space. So I just put a layer of double stitching around the edge of the whole thing. You can see here. I used a slightly longer stitch width for this, just because I felt like it might be a good idea. I just stuffed the foam into the shoulder strap, and I think it's looking pretty sweet. And it fits pretty good up here, but down here it's got a little bit too small. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to keep pulling the foam out, very carefully chopping a bit off, pushing it back in, rinse and repeat. And I'm just using a skewer to push it in each time, being very careful of the pointy end. Stitched, stuffed, looking pretty happy with them. Now I'm going to stitch some lines along these things to hold all the foam and everything together. Backpack straps are 90% done. All of the difficult bits are done. Now we just need to attach the sternum strap, top strap, the lower sternum strap, and the two side strap bits. Next up, I'm going to add these little strengthening pieces of cross grain on either side at the top of the shoulder strap. So I've just put a little fold on this loop at this end, and this end is just going to be left open. I've cut it all with a hot knife, and I'm going to tape it. So I'm planning to put a bar tack here, here, and then bar tacks where the foam seam ends, and then bar tacks at the two end points. Along this little bit of foam here, along this bit here, there's the foam finishes, and to get really into that bit of foam, I'm going to use a zipper foot. If you don't have one of these, then just try and get as close as you can. Reinforcements on the top of the straps is all ready. Now it's time to sew the ladder locks onto the bottom of the pack. So, close-up view. It's important that you get the straps the right way around. You don't want to be sewing these onto the wrong side. They're going to be sewed like this, one on both sides, and then a couple of strong bar tacks across it, coming off at about 45 degrees on this pack because these are vest-style straps. Important things here, when you're sewing the top, keep an eye on the bottom that it doesn't sort of move to the side, because if it moves to the side when you're sewing the bottom, you're not going to get all the stitches through it. So I'm going to sellotape up both sides to make sure it's 100% correct. Finished sewing the two ladder locks on, pretty happy with how they went on. I used lots of zigzag stitches. I think just by doing a zigzag and then halving your stitch spacing, you can essentially do two lines of stitching right next to each other, so you get a load of stitches in, which takes a lot of load there. Next up, we're going to be stitching on the lower sternum buckle. This one has got a fixed place, and because these are going to be very close to each other, I want to get this one really, really close to the edge here. So I'm going to put this one purely on top of the bag like that, and do a couple of tacks on it. Not as many as this one, because it's not as load bearing. The bottoms are all stitched up. You can see a pair of bar tacks here, pair of bar tacks here, pair of bar tacks here and here. It's all looking pretty good now. The only thing left to do for these is to add the sternum strap, but I think I'm going to leave that until it's actually on the bag, and then I will work out where I want it, because I'm not 100% sure how far up I want it with this designer shoulder strap. It's time to move on to some of the easier sewing big straight lines, which I'm looking forward to. These are the front panel and the back panel. So the first thing, we're going to work on the front panel. So the front panel is the panel that is furthest away from your back when you're wearing it. So I'm going to hem the top of this, fold this 2 centimeter line over, do a hem there. I'm going to hem this. Once it's all made together, sewn together later, I'll do the final roll on the hem. So I'm just going to do one fold and stitch. Then we're going to move on to preparing the pocket on this. So it's going to look something like this. These are going to need to be brought inwards, sewn around the edges with some pleats in it to make it fit together. Let's try and get it done. End of the top edge. Now what I'm going to do is sew this edge. I'm going to tack it on just along the edge here. I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way up. That way I don't have to guess this here. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So we'll have both of these edges tacked on. Okay, so the bottom pocket is all pinned in. What I've done is, first of all, I pinned the points together where I knew I wanted them to match, and then I pinned in the extra bit on each section. And I tried to get it close to the edges and close to the centre line. Hopefully that will make the pocket a bit more 3D. This was causing a little bit of difficulty because it was really stiff, but I don't think it's going to worry too much. Now just going to run a line of stitching along the whole of this. Okie dokie, so this sewed up really nicely. I was happy with that. Next up, we're just going to add in one line lock at the 48 centimeter point, and then a couple of webbing loops that are just going to be tacked onto the edge like this. And they are going to be just, I'm not 100% sure what I use them for, but I just like to put them where I hang my clothes. So I think I'm going to put one here, and one near the bottom.
So we have attached on the little toggly thingy-majiggies all along this side and the line lock for your solar panel and washing. It's looking pretty good.